Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. In this video, I'll be flipping through my Hobonichi cousin and showing you my April related pages. As usual, I'll show you how thick my planner has gotten. This is the same band I've been using to hold it close, still looks okay. I do notice that the spine is starting to curve. Like you can see, it's only been like 4 months and it's starting to curve. Okay, this one hasn't changed much. This is just for reference for my morning and evening ritual. For the calendar page, highlighted dates are family time events. These were the family events that happened on those highlighted days. For the calendar index page or my habit tracker page, in my April setup video, I had left this line blank where it used to track my dreams and or nightmares. I decided to track my job search activities here instead. Now, every single day I marked an X. It could represent different job search tasks. Coming to the monthly page where I plan out my YouTube channel and track my tasks for the channel and Instagram accounts. I've been working on my videos, but it's running a little bit behind. Right now, the schedule I've set feels like it could be improved, but it all depends on the type of video I'm working on. And sometimes it depends on my mood because some things happen along the way and then things get postponed. So right now the video I'm filming, which is the April flip through video, that's gonna be in May. I still have some space for these 2025 monthly pages, but I still have plenty of time to fill it up, so I'm not in a hurry to do that. Coming over to my weekly pages, I'm still using my stickers and washi tapes. I'm starting to notice that the planner is starting to bulge at the top part here, probably from the amount of washi tape I placed in the same location. So I'm going to have to vary it a little. Right now, I decided to hold off on learning Japanese, Korean, and Mandarin, and instead start learning Spanish. I figured that would be more beneficial for me than the other languages. That's the last day for April, and then I'm still continuing on for May. Here are the goals and resolutions page, and so far I'm still working on these. And I've basically done my learning course for QuickBooks, working on the RSVPs, cake cupcakes for the birthday party, and then I also ordered already a bunch of decorations for the party, attended my written exam, and then did my dentist appointment. So all those I checked it off, I've done them. Moving on to the daily pages. The currently page layout is still the same as before, and I've logged in a lot of interesting happenings for my daughter and for myself. The books, I think I missed out a couple of times when she brought back books from school. So this number is not exactly accurate, but I'll update it later on. Okay, for the first day, and you might have seen this during my April setup video, I drew a kunai opening scene following the House of Ninjas TV show on Netflix. At the time, I had finished watching the show and found it interesting because it was a family of ninjas that had to hide what they are. The ending wasn't one that I liked, so I'm hoping there will be a second season and it will be a bit different or more interesting. Here I wrote about job leads I received from a staffing agency. And because it was Easter Monday, my daughter was at home with us. And here I wrote that I was starting to worry that not many people would RSVP for my daughter's birthday party. And then I wrote about what birthday present I should get for my daughter. Here I drew the Sandman with his helmet of dreams. I had watched the TV show years ago and I really liked it. I've never read the comic books, so I wonder how much does it differ from the comic books. Here I wrote about finally having connected with the recruiter and asking for more details. And then my daughter finished drawing her art contest entry. And then I wrote about needing to get back to exercising again. And then finally about almost being done with the course I was learning in Coursera. I'm really liking it. It was really well done and easy to understand. For this day, I decided to draw Kira from the Dark Crystal. I loved watching the 1982 movie. I was just a kid back then, and I actually thought these creatures were real. And Kira was my favorite character because she had wings and could fly. I tried watching the TV show but stopped somewhere at episode 3 because the dolls looked a little bit different. I'll probably pick it up again to finish it and see if it measures up to the movie, but not anytime soon. Here I wrote about learning a different course after finishing the previous one. Next, a movie caught my attention called The Accountant. It was starring Ben Affleck and it was interesting, I suppose, but not exactly something that I would watch again. And then I wrote about making a list of romance authors that I want to try out. Another favorite movie from the 80s of mine was Gremlins, so I decided to draw Gizmo, and the food stickers that I have went perfect with it. Here I wrote about being excited about learning or taking more courses. I was exploring Allison and Coursera at the time, but I found that it had limited courses that I could take in relation to the path I want to take. Next, I wrote about having to take a written exam for a government job the next day. I have no idea what to expect, but I just did my best. And I did look up on the internet on what sort of questions could be asked, and I think if I had used my knowledge and common sense, I should be able to handle majority of the questions. And then here I wrote about having watched The Accountant movie starring Ben Affleck. Like I said just now, it was not bad. Had an interesting twist near the end, but it was okay. I started reading Ellie Hazelwood's Check and Mate, and so I decided to draw the characters from the book cover. Like her previous books, I like this one as well, but it's more catered towards the younger adults. Since it's all about playing chess, I had half of mine to use a real chessboard to play out the gameplays, but it wasn't a complete game in the book, so that's not gonna work. Could have been more fun to visualize and understand the moves though. Here I wrote about taking the written exam for a government job. Because I didn't know what to expect, I guess you could say I wasn't that prepared, and I can now confirm that I didn't really do that well because the first section of it, you only have 8 minutes to complete it, and I guess I wasn't paying attention to the time, and I took longer than expected, so I couldn't finish the 20 questions within that 8 minutes. But if you ask me, the 8 minutes was just too fast, too short. Next, I wrote about reading and liking the book of Check and Mate. I keep wanting to find out how their chemistry will continue to grow and develop into a relationship. It's definitely a page turner. And then finally, I wrote about going to schedule my dentist appointment. I actually tried calling them and doing it online, but nobody answered or returned my call. So I had to drive over to the dentist place to make the appointment. But anyway, that's in the past and I already had my appointment done. For this day, I finally decided to draw Supernatural, my all-time favorite fantasy horror TV show. It took me the longest time to decide which character I wanted to draw, whether it was Castiel or Dean. So I finally decided on Dean because I could draw the car behind him to the corner of the page, whereas for Castiel, I wanted to include wings, and that could take up a lot of writing space. So in the end, I chose Dean instead. Here I wrote about my experience during the written exam. Next, I wrote about watching Parasite the Grey show. The ending was really good because it explains why the main protagonist is the girl rather than the guy. And I got all excited because this could mean that there's season 2. And then at the bottom, I just wrote some notes about Buddhism and suffering. For this day, I drew Neo from The Matrix. These are bullets, so it's the scene where he was stopping the bullets. And then when the movie first came out, I had watched it with a group of college friends, not knowing what it was all really about. And then when I discovered that the people will basically use like batteries to power machines, I was really excited. And then there's Neo, who was special somehow. Absolutely loved the first movie and the ending of it. Movies following that one, not so much, which was a shame. It could have been great, but all that explanation about what it all is, why it all happened, that was just, my mind just glazed all over when they started explaining that. Here, I wrote about my experience at Home Depot where they were having the kids workshop. They had changed the location within the store to a long narrow aisle, and there was a huge line waiting to get in to work on the crafts, the wood crafts for kids. We wanted to just take the kit and do it at home instead of just, forced to wait in line with the rest. And I tried to talk to somebody to pass out the kit, but when they finally did, they started from the back rather than from the front. So in the end, I had to continue wait in line. And after grabbing the kit, I had to squeeze through the narrow aisle filled with families working at the tables. And it was horribly planned and ridiculous. So I emailed the store manager or the store and gave a bad review on Google. That was my bad experience with Home Depot. So far, I haven't gone back to that place, but I think in the future, if I do go back, I'll probably just observe how they go about it. Hopefully, they took my suggestions in consideration, but I don't know, I'll just forget about it. Okay, this day was a day where the total eclipse event happened, but I live in California, so it would have been just a partial eclipse. And when I thought about what to draw for this day, heroes came to mind because they had that eclipse thing on the title. So I drew the cheerleader, and she's wearing the glasses to watch the solar eclipse. The eclipse didn't quite turn out the way I wanted it to be. Like, it looked really odd. I should have stuck with one color, but I think you can guess what it is. It's the solar eclipse. Here I wrote about somebody texting me, asking me what language I speak. This is for a job that I had applied to, and somebody supposedly from that company texted me wanting to know what language I spoke, like whether I could speak Chinese. And I thought that was really strange, and I just gave my reply anyway, but that person never texted me back, so I guess I'm ghosted. Rude, and I guess I'm disqualified, but you know what? I can just forget about that job. It's just bizarre how that person went about it. And then I wrote about the solar eclipse, how we have the glasses for it, and then our experience at the mall celebrating Holi, throwing colored powder at each other. On that day, I was wearing Crocs, and my daughter had decided to pour almost half a bag of powder into the holes of the Crocs, and some water got mixed in, and especially when I was bathing, and I don't know how, but somehow the powder and color got stuck in some parts of my leg. So I don't know what to do about it, but I guess as time goes by, the color would fade away. Today, I took the day off from job searching and then doing anything that would not add to my stress. I needed a break from the job search because it was not getting me anywhere, and I was frustrated and feeling the burnout. I didn't even feel like drawing anything interesting other than of this girl reading. So I used Meta AI to generate an image and just followed that. It looks kind of plain, but luckily I have stickers to add some colors and fill the white space. Here I wrote about my frustration from job searching and what I hope to do this day. But strangely, my mind was still busy thinking about what I could still do to help me in the job search. And so I wasn't completely successful in my effort to relax for that day. And then I wrote about wanting to read a lot. I borrowed 3 books from the library, and I think at that time, I think that they will be great, and it was just so-so. I think The Nanny is the one that's the best of the lot. For this day, I drew Yu Yu Hakusho. I had started watching the live action drama of Yu Yu Hakusho, and I found that it was made by the same people that did Alice in Borderland, and so I decided to watch it. I had watched the anime version many years ago, but I don't think I ever finished it. It's actually a pretty interesting story. It's just the style of drawing isn't to my liking, especially the hairstyle. Here I wrote about having finished reading Check and Mate. It was alright, but the spicy level wasn't what I was looking for, seeing as it was a YA novel. And then I wrote about my rest day from job search. And then my daughter's bag. The zipper was tearing away from the bag, creating a hole. So I had to sew it back up until I get her the new bag, which is already wrapped, by the way, because her birthday is coming soon in a couple of days. So she's gonna get a new bag on that day. She pretty much knows what bag she's getting because she's the one that chose it. I'm just wrapping it up, making it officially like, a birthday present. And then she's gonna open it up on that day. For this day, I was looking to watch something new, and decided upon this Korean sci-fi drama called Sisyphus. That's why I drew this woman wearing this symbol over here. That's supposed to be Park Shin-hye, by the way. The symbol has something to do with an organization, but I'm not sure what else beyond that. And I never finished watching this drama. Actually, because I don't think it's really that interesting, even though I'm a big fan of hers, but the storyline wasn't that interesting and some scenes could have been done better, and it looks kind of lame, to be honest, because I mean she's just running off here and there, and she was not really a difficult target, and whoever was shooting those guns could never seem to hit her. I thought that was just lame. Here I wrote about my job search outcome, and then about my learning course. And then here I wrote about time and I almost crashed into a car as I was coming out from a junction. Let me see if I can illustrate this. So this is the junction that I'm coming out of, and then this is the main road, and here is a building, the recreational center, and usually there are no cars parked over here, but because they were doing some sort of construction down this way, I guess the workers had parked over here, and I couldn't see if there were any cars turning into the road, and it's a pretty short distance to the road that I'm coming out from. So I looked right and left many times. There was another car on the opposite crossroad, and they're waiting for me to come out. So I was like, okay, maybe it's safe for me to come out already. I already looked right and left. But just as I was turning, this car just came pretty fast, and I was like, I nearly crashed into him. But probably my fault for not looking again. And I was sure to look multiple times this time. But again, I managed to bring it up during the neighborhood meeting, the HOA meeting or whatever. And I told them that, you know, some streets should not have cars parked there because it creates a blind spot. So that was my issue with that day. Here I drew the characters from the book cover of A Demon's Guide to Wooing a Witch by Sarah Hawley. I decided to give her books a try. I also borrowed the other book before this one, but I'm not reading it in order because this one, the story appealed to me more. But I'll get around to reading the first book after this one. Here I wrote about how my mood was better after seeing more jobs posted that I could apply to. And then I wrote about the book that I'm reading. And then I rewatched End with an E, skipping through episodes quickly to the good parts. And then I put End of Ingleside ebook on hold through Libby app because I wanted to read about their kids. For this day, again, I drew some characters from a book cover. It was from The Nanny by Lana Ferguson. I haven't finished reading the book yet. I'm really close to finishing it. At that time, I haven't finished reading the other book yet, but I was really curious and decided to try a few pages of The Nanny. Soon it became chapters and then, you know, sort of picked up, and I really liked it a lot more than the other book. But I already finished this one and I'm about to finish this one soon. Here I wrote about more job search outcomes. A recruiter emailed me asking about availability, and I gave her the times for the following week. And then I started reading The Nanny, like I mentioned just now, and I really liked it. And I also borrowed the ebook finally, The End of Ingleside, because it was available on Libby app. But you know what? I didn't really get around to reading it all that much, so I returned it. But I'll probably borrow it again sometime in the future. It's a different style of writing, and the spicy level from the Nanny or those books that I'm currently reading is not in here, so it didn't quite vibe with the mood that I was in, so I returned the book. But nevertheless, I'm pretty sure I would get around to reading it sometime in the future. Then here I wrote about starting a new course. It was a project management foundation course from Google. And for this day, I drew Nanami and Tomoe from Kamisama Kiss. It's another favorite anime or manga of mine. Always love a good human yokai romance or human demon romance. I used some weekend stickers from Coffee Monsters Co. that I have for the longest time but never got around to using. I plan to use up the stickers that I got from sticker shops eventually as well. Here I wrote about watching the After series of movies, which was based on a series of books written by Anna Todd. I have mixed feelings about the movies. They were great. The chemistry between the characters were good, but the flow of their relationship seemed a bit rushed, and there's a little disconnect, and their relationship problems left me feeling a little bit anxious and stressed. So I think I got to watching almost all the movies except for the last one. I didn't really finish that. At least it has a good ending, you know. I mean, I made sure to check the ending so that I don't waste my time watching 5 movies. Then I wrote about preparing for a possible phone interview, which did happen. The recruiter had yet to respond to my email at that time on the availability, but she did. At least it's a good excuse to get some practice in, you know, these interviews, since it's been a while since my last interview, and I just have to feel confident and remember my answers each time. So this was a good experience to try to practice my interview skills. For today's daily entry, I decided to draw a poster from a sci-fi TV show that I once watched and thought was a really good one, even though it got cancelled after 2 seasons. It was the first time I noticed Hiroyuki Sanada, who currently stars in Shogun, and I thought he has a good, intense, mysterious look about him that I find kind of attractive and it's hard to ignore. And then here I wrote about preparing for my phone interview, and then I wrote about the kite flying we did the day before. It was fun, although there wasn't much wind. Wind kept dying and we had to, you know, try to bring it up in the air multiple times, but we got a solid good hour or so in flying kites. And then I wrote about stepping up on keeping myself positive during my job search now that my unemployment benefits has just ended. And for this day's Hobonichi daily entry, I drew Izuku or Deku from My Hero Academia. Originally, my daughter had asked me where this Yuji character was from, and I had mistakenly guessed My Hero Academia. I've never watched the anime before, so naturally I was wrong. He was in a different anime called Jujutsu Kaisen. Anyway, I watched a couple of My Hero Academia episodes before I realized my mistake, but it seems like a fun anime though, so I continued watching it, and I think I'm in the last season right now, season 4. Here I wrote about how tired I was the day before, that I couldn't memorize my answers like I did before. I did get more sleep in for the day, so that should help me come up with my answers. And after that, I wrote about my plans of wanting to relax and to make an appointment with the dentist. And like I mentioned earlier, I ended up having to drive to the dentist to make an appointment. But at least I booked the appointment. It was for Friday the following week, or for Friday that week. I'm sure, or maybe you might not have encountered this, but there's been a couple of shorts or TikTok videos where people dance to this song called Bing Bang Bang Born. I think if you look it up, you know what I mean when you hear the music. So I've been hearing a lot of this music, right? And I couldn't get it out of my head, and that's why I drew this Mashly. I think that's how you pronounce it, Magic and Muscles. I've not watched this anime before, but thanks to this music that led me to it, it's now on my watch list. Here I wrote about my experience during the phone interview the day before. It was mostly positive, and I'm hopeful that it will get me to the next stage, which it did. And then I wrote about another job lead from another recruiter that I've been in contact with. It's the same company that had rescinded their job offer and then had ghosted me for a later one. For this day's Hobonichi daily entry, I decided to draw Yuji from Jujutsu Kaisen, just as a reminder that I may want to watch this anime in the future. I got the color of the uniform wrong. It looks purple over here when it should be blue. Here I wrote about having passed a phone interview and that they wanted to interview me for the following Monday. I had initially responded that I could do a virtual since she mentioned it, but I guess they would rather do it in person, and I accidentally overshared saying that I was nervous, and the recruiter called me and gave me a pep talk, which I was thankful for, but I was embarrassed. Not the best start. And I told her though that I would do the in-person, and the interview did happen the following week, so I'll tell you all about it when the later pages come. And then here later on, I worked out my stress at the gym. Okay, for this day, I decided to draw Hellboy because I'm trying to channel him for the next 3 days. I needed to come down to go for the interview come Monday, since I already know they might have a bias due to my employment gap. So I had all kinds of thoughts running through my head, so I tried to think of characters that were confident and has high self-esteem so I could emulate that. Here I wrote about my feelings regarding the upcoming interview, and then my plans to prepare for the interview until the day of the appointment. The next day, I drew Jimmy from Rebel Moon 2 that is out on Netflix, just as a reminder that I want to watch it sometime in the future. And I'm curious about this character, as I'm not sure if it's going to turn evil. You know, it seemed like the kind of thing that would go evil. I really hope it doesn't. And then here I wrote about having gone for my dentist appointment and then having to schedule another one the following week because my teeth grinding habit and I sleep have cracked the tooth or the filling, and 2 of them now needs crowns. I decided to go ahead and do it rather than having the worst happen and losing them both entirely, and then God knows how much money that would cost. So it's just bad news if I don't have it taken care of. So I got it done, and that way I don't have to think about it anymore for maybe next 10-15 years. And then I wrote about doing some volunteer work with my daughter. It was some beautification volunteer work in my city, and then later we stopped at Lowe's to collect some wood kits. They gave us 2, which was awesome. One was a planter pot and the other was a bird feeder. And then finally, I wrote about having prepped and researched all I could for the interview. The next day, I drew one of my favorite anime characters from an anime back in the days, which was DN Angel. I like the romance story. It's about a boy with a secret identity that comes out, and there are these twin girls that liked both of them, but they don't know that it's actually one and the same person, or more like the character is within the main guy here. So I don't want to give out any spoilers, but you know, it was an interesting anime. Here I wrote about how I've been practicing for the interview, and I think over practiced. And then I wrote some quotes to keep in mind to help calm myself. And here, this is finally the day of the interview. I drew Wolverine because I wanted to channel Wolverine to boost my confidence. Not that I succeeded. I decided not to take coffee that morning because in the past, during the phone interview, I was a little bit jittery, so I decided not to take coffee at all during this morning. I think it was a bad call because I was also feeling sleepy, and the caffeine withdrawal probably made my brain sluggish. You know, combination of that and not having enough sleep and, you know, over preparing for the interview. Anyway, I'll tell you all about it in the next day's entry. Here I wrote about the interview prep and then what I plan to do after the interview. But to be honest, I spent the day playing my interview and just running some errands like grocery shopping, cooking, and writing in my diary to get over my disappointment. For this day, I drew Miss Circle because my daughter requested it. It seems to be trending even in Roblox because that's how my daughter knew of it. Anyway, there's a video of Miss Circle created by Katie on YouTube. And then here is where I wrote about my interview experience. I basically blanked out. As I was starting to introduce myself, I got the first few words out of my mouth and then nothing. I've done this same introduction many times before, and I know it by heart already. So when I was practicing for this interview, I skipped this introduction part because I could do it multiple times, many times. But for some reason, because I was tired or I didn't have my coffee and I just over-prepared whatever, I couldn't think of the words. Nothing came to mind. So I waited a few seconds. I thought maybe it will eventually come to me, but nothing. So the guy that was interviewing me, that's the person I'll be reporting to. And then the other person that I'll be reporting to is working remotely. So she was on a screen on my left. And I was just looking at him. Nothing came to mind. So the longer I waited, I was starting to feel warm, I was starting to perspire, and it was getting awkward. So in the end, I thought to myself, something has to happen. So I just apologized and I said I was nervous. I admitted that I was nervous because what else, right? And I have to look at my notes. I told them that I'm sorry, I have to do this. I'm gonna look at my notes real quick. So I took it off my bag, which was on my right, took out the folded note, and I just read the first few lines, and thankfully, that helped trigger my brain finally, and I was able to introduce myself properly. But, you know, I mean, I didn't blank out anymore after that, and I could answer the questions. I could see it on the interviewer's face that he wasn't interested in me anymore, but he was going through the motions just to keep it, you know, give me a proper interview. So I just smiled and then answered whatever questions, and when I was in the car, I freaked out. But I got over it. I will move on and learn from this. 1, definitely get enough sleep. 2, take a few sips of coffee. Don't skip it entirely. And 3, do not over prepare. Worst interview ever. It was the first time that happened to me. And then here I wrote about my dentist appointment later that day, and I have the 2 temporary crowns fitted. The aches in my jaw have lessened considerably, but I haven't chewed on that side. Okay, the next day I drew Sakuragi Hanamichi from Slam Dunk, one of my first animes that I watched alongside with Sailor Moon that I was interested in. I was a fan of Chicago Bulls during that time, and he reminded me so much of Dennis Rodman because of the personality and the hair color. It was an interesting character. Here I wrote about my aching jaw and my gums that sore from all the injections, and next week I have to go back in to put my permanent crowns, so it's probably going to be another set of injections and my gums will be sore again, but at least it'll be over. And then I wrote about having gotten over the previous day's interview, and then I wrote about seeing a crow attacking a pigeon. I was sitting in this room right on my table over here, and I heard this loud crash at the window that's beside me here, and it looked like a big bird. So I went down to the balcony, and as I was going to the door, I saw this crow. It flew away, and I saw this pigeon just huddling really tightly in this corner of the door, not moving. And I saw one of its wings had its feather plucked, and when I opened the door slowly, instead of flying away when I approached, it ran and hid under my couch on the balcony. I'll tell you more about that incident on this page over here. So the next day I drew Nezuko from Demon Slayer. It's another anime I want to eventually watch. During this time, I had already gone through a dental procedure fitting temporary crowns on my lower right back molars, right? And maybe it was because of all of that I thought about drawing Nezuko, because she was biting on the bamboo. And looking at it kind of made my already aching jaw hurt even more, so I decided to draw Nezuko. And here I wrote about my dentist appointment that made my jaw and gums ache, but I'm being really careful when it comes to brushing and eating. And then I wrote about attending a neighborhood meeting and voicing some of my concerns like I mentioned before. It was enlightening to hear people talk about stuff, so I think I will attend the next one next month, or actually this month. And then here I wrote about the pigeon that had hidden under the couch outside on the balcony. It stayed there overnight. It didn't move from there, and I was worried that it was injured, and that's why it didn't fly away. But in the morning, as I was showing my daughter the pigeon, it finally decided to fly away, and it left a lot of mess. It was like a whole bunch of bird poop. I have not cleaned it up just yet because it's gross, so I'm just waiting for it to dry up, and then later I'll scrape it off. Here I drew an Apophis Serpent Guard from Stargate SG-1. I had wanted to draw this TV show for a while now, but I knew that trying to draw the main characters would be difficult and they probably won't look like the actual characters, so I went with this so that it's more recognizable. And here I wrote about my trash picking experience I did that morning. There weren't much trash, but there were still people dumping their dog waste bags around. It's really annoying, especially the ones that don't even bother to tie the bag. Don't know why they do that. Next I wrote about the birthday party RSVPs. More parents have confirmed going, and I think it's going to be a good number. I'm not as anxious about the turn up for the party. I'm going to be stopping by at Costco to pick up the cake, and then it's going to be simple, and then for the final touch I will just have to stick in the Roblox cake topper and then the number 8 candle onto the cake. And then I wrote about my gardening and my intention to update my gardening log in Notion. The next day I decided to draw characters from a book cover of the book I'm currently reading called A Witch's Guide to Fake Dating a Demon. A Witch's Guide to Fake Dating a Demon by Sarah Hawley. I had finished the second book in the series already, and I think it was just average for me. It didn't hold my attention for very long. Maybe because for the past few weeks I was going through some stuff and it was hard for me to enjoy it, so hopefully for this one I will like it more. Here I wrote about meeting up with some old friends. We had postponed a couple of times since the beginning of the year, and this day the weather was looking great and it was happening. And then I wrote about wanting to check out the library that's next to the park we were meeting at, but I ended up just using the restroom. I didn't manage to find enough time to actually check out the library. And then I wrote about walking around the neighborhood to look for streets to clean, and finally about my next book to borrow from the library to read. I'm not sure if I'm in the mood for fantasy or romance or a combination of both. I have been wanting to read Polly by Stephen King, but that requires some focus, so I'm hesitant to start. But we'll see. Browsing for books to read can be kind of fun. For this day, I happened to watch a YouTube video of Thorin and company singing Misty Mountains, and I knew I just have to draw him, or try to draw him. He's played by Richard Armitage, I think that's how you pronounce his name, whom I loved when he was acting in North and South, and he can sing. Have you heard that song in The Hobbit? His voice is so good. Here I wrote about successfully meeting up with my friend and her 2 kids and then catching up on things happening in our lives. And then I wrote about our plans for the day. We would be going over to my brother-in-law's place for a bit to pick him up and then head on over to watch Cirque du Soleil, Kuza performance. And then after that, we would have our dinner at Kicking Crab. We've been there once before, and then this time with my daughter. She really loves the food and enjoyed getting her fingers messy, peeling off the shells of shrimps. And finally, I wrote about wrapping up Esri's birthday present, which she had accidentally worn to school already. It's one of the t-shirts that she got, but we'll just pretend that never happened, that she never wore it, and then it'll be fine. Her birthday is not till May 7th, so it's fine. I'm not fussy that way. And then yesterday, because I knew I was not going to have time to prepare for this day's page after I returned, I went ahead and drew before we left. So since we were going to watch Cirque du Soleil Kuza performance, I drew the Trickster. The show was really fun, and it was the first time for my daughter watching Cirque du Soleil. Her favorite was when the guy balanced on 8 chairs stacked on top of each other, whereas for me, it was when those 2 acrobats walked and jumped on a spinning wheel called Wheel of Death. I'll put up some photos over here so you can see what I mean. Here I wrote about the performance and then about the progress of the birthday party planning. And then finally I wrote about how I felt I wasn't doing as much as I thought in terms of job searching. And I have a routine going on. I try not to burn myself out. Maybe I have to change it up a little bit to get some better results. So that's for me. I'll just cover it up. For today's Hobonichi daily entry, I drew Lucy from Fallout. I'm quite pleased with how this one turned out. I started watching the show on Amazon Prime and I was hooked. I've never played the game before and I don't know how much of it is following the game story, but I still liked it. So, but too bad it was only 8 episodes. The good news is there is gonna be a second season, but I wished it had more episodes. TV shows these days don't have that many episodes. I don't know why. It's either 10, 8, goodness, needs to be longer than that. Here I just recapped what had happened in the month of April, all the good things and bad things, and then I wrote about my intentions to improve myself professionally and physically. And then at the end I decided that the book Check and Mate would be the best book for the month of April. Moving on to the back of the planner. So for cleaning, I mostly dusted the rooms, cleaned the bathroom, and vacuumed the kitchen. Haven't done any major spring cleaning. For self-care, I did a couple of things. I took an afternoon nap, went to the library a couple of times, to Barnes & Noble, walking, facial, and gardening. I hope to make it a point to swim at the recreational center one day. Just don't like doing it in the hot sun. I don't know, I prefer an indoor swimming pool. And then here, the birthday party is happening soon. I'm nervous and excited. And here, this is the details or my plan for the birthday party. And it's happening tomorrow as I'm filming this. I'm nervous and excited. Nervous because it's going to be raining all day, but it's indoors, you know, nobody will get wet and it won't be cancelled. I just hope people don't cancel on us, that's what. And then rain or not, my daughter will have a birthday party like she always wanted, and here's hoping that everything will go smoothly. Here I summarized my applications and the number of interviews. I won't talk much about this, but I will try to do better for May, basically. And subscriptions, here are the ones I'm subscribed to. For Netflix and Viki, it's for myself and maybe for my daughter because she does do Netflix sometimes. Amazon and Costco is for the family. Microsoft was a mistake, but I can't do anything because the payment went through. And it's an annual payment, so nothing I can do about it until renewal time, which is September. So I have to remember to unsubscribe. Then Prodigy Math. This is Prodigy Math. That one is for my daughter. It's an annual subscription as well, and she does use it at school, but when it comes to renewal, I'm probably gonna ask my daughter if she still intends to collect the mythical epic beasts, because I don't think she's doing that. And that's what the subscription is for, to mainly be able to collect those mythical epic beasts. If she's not doing that anymore, I don't think there's any reason to pay for subscription. She can still use the app like normal, but she just won't get those beasts. Here, I'm still tracking my overall health. Allergies are acting up on and off, so whenever it's bad, I just take some allergy pills. And then for my favorite shows or movies, I've added Parasite the Grey and Fallout. Both were really fun shows to watch. And then for my 100 list, I added a book and 2 shows to watch. Oh, and 1 more book at the end because it's only coming out in 2025. Nothing new for this page. For the best read, I chose Check and Mate, like I mentioned earlier. I wasn't focusing on reading this month and didn't feel like borrowing anything particularly exciting, so maybe for me there will be something interesting. We'll see. And then finally, my sleep tracker, again mostly purple, being 6 hours of sleep and maybe a few green ones. That one's for 7 hours because during the weekend I get to sleep in a little bit. And that is it for my flip through and review of my Hobonichi cousin. I hope you liked the video. If you do give me a thumbs up. And if you want to watch more of my other videos, do subscribe to my channel. And with that, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.